I'm Geoff Thale. I'm the program director at WOLA, which is the Washington office in Latin America. We support human rights and social justice in the Americas. We do advocacy and research, and we work closely with and base all our work on working closely with partners in the region. President Obama's trip to Cuba is a historic step forward, and after 55 years in which we have had a formal policy of embargo and implicitly of regime change, of overthrowing the Cuban government, we now have a new policy that's serious about engagement and that accepts that the current Cuban government that exists, whatever disagreements or flaws we have with it, we're going to live with, engage with, dialogue with, and that's a huge step forward. It's an illusion to think that engaging with Cuba somehow suggests that we drop concerns about human rights. First of all, we engage with all kinds of countries who have far worse human rights records than Cuba does. We engage with Saudi Arabia, which beheads people when it disagrees with their political opinions. So from that point of view, there's just no way there's no comparison. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think engaging with Cuba is the smart way to discuss the human rights issue. We stop beating them over the head and trying to isolate them, and you start dialogue. And in the long run, I think that's more likely to encourage political openness, greater debate inside Cuban society itself. The Cold War, in fact, ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union 20-some years ago, and there's never been a justification since, if there ever was, for keeping an embargo on Cuba. Starting in the mid-1970s, every government in Latin America has moved away from us on this policy, and everybody but us in the Western Hemisphere has engaged with Cuba, had diplomatic relations, had an embassy, had trade, and the whole deal, right? Most governments have thought our policy stupid and backward, frankly, and many of them have seen it as a major irritant. The engagement we have just begun to see is going to be a big impulse for moving to end the embargo. If you look at the spectrum, it's clear that Sanders and Clinton both support the policy of engagement. Clinton has probably taken a harder line on internal developments in Cuba itself and how Cuba needs to progress than Sanders has, but both candidates support the policy of engagement. Ted Cruz has taken a really hard line and has said, I will not only stop what President Obama's done, I will reverse it. So he would go backwards on that policy. Surprisingly, maybe not, Donald Trump has taken the position that he supports engaging with Cuba, just he would have cut a better deal. It's Trump who's the more pro-engagement, although the exact terms of that are unclear, and it's Kasich and Cruz who are opposed to the policy and would go backwards. If you want to know more about WOLA and our work on Cuba and our work in general, you can look at our website, www.wola.org. You'll find a lot there and you'll be able to reach out and engage with us.